84% of vegans eventually quit their diet. A vegan diet lacks nutrients like ansarine, carnitine, cholesterol, choline, CLA, coenzyme Q10, creatine, taurine, vitamin A, B12, D, F, K2, not to mention the poor quality of protein that's actually bioavailable in the vegan diet, and the low amount of minerals in it, like magnesium, zinc, and iron. The goal of this video is to first share why the vegan diet is deficient in all of these nutrients, and then my other qualms with it, like how supplementing nutrients isn't as effective as it seems online to be, and how vegan meat is so unbelievably bad for your health. So let me first start with the common myth that the vegan diet is high in vitamin A. This is a common misconception that the vegan community has. The vegan diet is not high in vitamin A, but instead high in dietary beta-carotene, which can be converted into vitamin A. This is important because it takes 12 micrograms of beta-carotene to convert into 1 microgram of vitamin A, which is an extremely high ratio. This makes getting vitamin A solely from a vegan diet extremely hard to do. Actual vitamin A only comes from animal foods and supplements, and it is much more effective to get vitamin A through such instead. A lack of vitamin A can cause a whole range of issues like vision impairment, poor immune function, and decreased skin health. So it's of course fundamental to make sure you are getting enough of it. Vitamin B12, unlike vitamin A, is a well-known nutrient in the vegan community that the vegan diet lacks. Vitamin B12 is crucial for red blood cell formation, DNA synthesis, and neurological function. Unfortunately for vegans, the only non-animal food present with vitamin B12 is some fermented foods, and these are in extremely trace amounts. And it's for this reason that 75% of vegans are said to be deficient in vitamin B12, with the other 25% approximately supplementing the vitamin, which I'll talk about more later. Two other vitamins that are only found in trace amounts of fermented foods, except for of course animal foods which vegans can't eat, are vitamin K2, a nutrient that supports cardiovascular health, and vitamin D, which made a whole list of benefits from in my sunlight video, which I will link in the description. By the way, if you think you can get all the vitamin D you need solely from the sun, there are numerous exceptions to this rule, which I talked about in a video, and it explains why you really should get some vitamin D from your diet alongside the sun. This study here that I've put on screen highlights this. It shows that vegans' level of vitamin D was 34% lower than omnivores, which can, as stated earlier, lead to a whole array of health issues. There's a few nutrients I listed that are found in zero non-animal foods. Ansarine, for example, which has many antioxidant properties and has been linked to improving brain function. There's also cholesterol, which I made a whole video discussing. It's quite literally the building block that creates testosterone, estrogen, and some vitamins too. There's vitamin F, which I also discussed in my video on fats, with vitamin F simply being an outdated term that was once used to refer to essential fatty acids, particularly omega-3s and 6s. Conjugated linoleic acid, so CLA, which is linked to fat metabolism and has many anti-inflammatory effects, is also not found in non-animal foods, nor is creatine, which is key to short bursts of energy and cognitive function, or even taurine, which helps with hydration and nervous system health. Even nutrients that are found in a few non-animal foods directly still nonetheless are under-consumed in the vegan diet. Choline, for example, which is a critical nutrient for brain function, was found to be deficient in a whopping 95% of all vegans in the study. Other examples of this include carnitine, which is essential for fat metabolism and energy production, as well as coenzyme Q10, which has many antioxidant properties and supports energy production as well. Protein as well, which comes from vegan food, also isn't as high quality as protein that comes from animal food. To oversimplify, protein is made up of amino acids, 9 of which are essential, but I believe there's 23 in total, I could be wrong on that, which are essentially building blocks that form together to make a protein. Protein that comes from vegan food lacks many of these essential amino acids, making them incomplete proteins as such, unlike protein from animal foods that contain all the essential amino acids, for example leucine, and are therefore complete proteins. I could keep on giving examples of what the vegan diet lacks, but I don't want this video to be too hard to digest, and so I will lastly talk about mineral deficiency before moving on. Spinach is thought to be a great source of iron, specifically non-heme iron, but in reality you can only absorb 2% of it because spinach has oxalates in it which are binded to the iron. To oversimplify once again, there's heme iron, which is iron that comes from animal foods, and there's non-heme iron, which comes from plants, as seen in this example of spinach. Heme iron is very easy to absorb as it isn't binded to anything, unlike non-heme iron, which is much harder to absorb due to dietary inhibitors like oxalates, phthalates, and polyphenols. This, alongside other compounds like fiber and the fact that these minerals are generally lower in non-animal foods anyway, make the bioavailability of minerals like magnesium, zinc, and iron in a vegan diet lower when compared to diets that include animal products. I'm now going to move on and discuss why I believe supplementing these nutrients can work, but not very effectively. One study, for example, found that while dietary calcium reduced the risk of heart attack, calcium supplements increased such risk due to the source of calcium being unnatural. This is consistent with other studies. For example, this study that I have now put on screen is a study of choline, which, remember, 95% of vegans are deficient in. It found that choline from egg yolks is far better absorbed than choline from the common supplement, choline bitartrate. My issue with supplements isn't that they don't work, it's that they simply don't work as effectively as getting them from natural sources. You'd have to take an extreme number of unnatural supplements on the vegan diet, many of which can cause side effects, to even be on par to someone who consumes animal-based foods. I recall someone online trying to convince me that because the human body synthesizes a couple of the nutrients I talked about, like cholesterol and creatine, you therefore don't need to worry about not consuming enough in your diet or even supplementing them at all. This argument is absolutely ridiculous, and your body won't synthesize enough of these nutrients by itself. There simply isn't enough bioavailability to do so. Neglecting the literal nutrients that your body needs to function is, of course, completely undesirable, and so, I don't know what the guy was on about when I saw this argued online. Another argument I've seen that's linked to nutrient deficiency advocates that while we may eat animals, such animals eat plants, and so we can simply skip the middleman as such by eating just plants by itself. In response to this, I think I've already highlighted how plant-based foods aren't nearly as nutritious as animal foods, so I'll now add on to this response by further explaining why plants aren't as nutritious as animal foods. The reason why we can't eat many of the foods animals eat, like grass, is because our digestive system is simply not designed to process them efficiently. We completely lack the digestive enzymes to break down the nutrients in food that animals only eat, which, keep in mind, don't even contain the essential nutrients that humans specifically need in sufficient quantities anyway. I like to think of an animal as a sort of machine that can turn itself into an edible food from things that such machine runs on, which humans do not run on. Cows, for example, have 4 stomachs to break down cellulose, which is a type of fibre in grass, converting it into digestible nutrients like protein, fat, and carbohydrates that animals can actually consume. Humans, of course, don't have 4 stomachs and cannot break down cellulose, hence my analogy of the machines. Now, you may be wondering, if the vegan diet causes numerous nutritious deficiencies, then why are there numerous top-level athletes who are vegan? I believe there's 2 main reasons for this. The first reason is that many of these top-level vegan athletes, whether you like it or not, are on steroids. Steroids like Tren, for example, make it so you don't require that many vitamins, minerals and antioxidants because you are literally injecting testosterone instead of producing it naturally. A good example of this, of a top level athlete that's a vegan that falls into this category, is famous strongman Patrick Baboumian. Hopefully I said that right. There is not a chance that he is not on steroids, and so the lack of nutrient deficiency, no, the nutrient deficiency, not a lack of nutrient deficiency, because that would imply that he has a great amount of nutrients in his body, isn't needed because, yeah, he is literally injecting his own testosterone. He doesn't need the nutrients to function as optimally because he is literally injecting it instead of producing it from his own balls. Now, the second reason that there are top level vegan athletes that aren't on steroids but they're still at the top level is that they are so skilled that they have gotten to the top of their sport regardless of the fact their body could be stronger. You've got to keep in mind as well that supplements can in part negate nutritional deficiencies caused by the vegan diet, and top level athletes will be far more worried about supplementing and obtaining the correct nutrients than the average vegan. They will literally get tests on every single nutrient that they're deficient in. The average vegan doesn't do that. I'd say most top level athletes are far more worried about that kind of thing and therefore supplement far more specifically according to what they need. So even though their body may not be as strong as it possibly could be, it won't be as drastically as bad as other vegans who don't care even half as much about their nutritional deficiencies. The final topic I want to discuss in this video is vegan meat. A vegan meat product could genuinely have 100 ingredients in it and be considered completely normal in the vegan community, despite it being full of things like bioengineered foods, seed oils, processed grains, fake sweeteners, preservatives, gluten, soy, and so on. Red meat, on the other hand, has just one ingredient, which is meat. If you're craving meat, I believe there's a reason for that. I believe that the billions of years, not billions, fuck that, hundreds of, however many years, right, of evolution has led to this craving, not vegan meat, which is just ultra processed garbage. I think vegan meat is truly the devil. Hundreds of ingredients listed in vegan meat. I just don't think that's very logical to consume. I think we should just consume one ingredient if we're consuming meat, and that's meat. In fact, vegan meat is actually a food manufacturer's dream. Raising a natural grass-fed cow costs more than 10 times the amount of plant-based or even artificially grown vegan meat costs. These manufacturers get to sell it while pushing the moral narrative that it's the right thing to do. When one cow literally produces over 8,000 ounces of meat, meaning if you eat steak every day for breakfast, lunch and dinner for a year, you wouldn't even kill a single cow. This is on top of the fact that in the UK, for example, only 1/4 of land is arable, meaning the other 3/4 of land in the country is marginal and only livestock, not crops, can grow on it anyway. In conclusion to this video, I think I've clearly highlighted my problems with the vegan diet. Vegans have the right idea, right? They're trying to reduce the amount of suffering in the world, and that's commendable. The vegan diet has even been approximated to be 40% cheaper than meat and fish, which is a benefit on its own, especially if you're in uni, for example, and you're not earning that much money. My problem with the diet, though, is the vast array of nutrients you'll become deficient in when following the diet, as well as your future offspring if you're pregnant while on that diet. I also disagree with how unnatural the diet is, and furthermore completely disagree with the notion that byproducts of the vegan diet, like vegan meat, are healthier for you, when in fact the complete opposite is the truth. Thanks for watching. The sources I've used are in the description below. There is actually no not included section in the description of this video this time. Everything that I researched was either something I just didn't find interesting, so I'm not putting it in the description, or I did find interesting, and so I've included it in this video. That is all. If you have any questions in the comment section below, please feel free to send them. And yeah, bye.